Great, definitely. But I summarized the parts that to me demonstrate the fundamental way most of us see clothing. It exists for a single purpose, and that's to cover our bodies. Our society looks at clothes, hair, shoes, makeup, accessories, collectively, what I will call fashion, in a very practical and utilitarian way. Folks, today, I want to show you why that's wrong. I want to talk about the power of fashion and the ability it has to transform our lives. This day and age is, statistically speaking, the best time ever to be alive. We have longer lifespans, way lower mortality rates, easier access to food, shelter, education. We should all be so incredibly grateful for the gift of being alive in the 21st century. But there's a catch, right? All those perks of the modern age are pretty much offset by that constant pressure to be productive. But that idea, that sentiment, it's based in something we all intimately know. We all know that the way you dress influences how other people perceive you. It's the reason why your mom's ironing that white shirt before your first proper job interview, or why you're up at midnight texting your friends 15 different outfit options before your first date with that smoking hottie from the library. We're trying to project confidence, skill, wit, intelligence, all these wonderful and amazing aspects of our personality.
So what is the separation of powers? So as discussed in a prior video, the U.S. Constitution establishes the framework for the United States government. That is, Article 1 established the legislative branch, the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Article 2 established the office of the presidency, the executive branch of government, and Article 3 established the judicial branch, the United States Supreme Court. Okay, now the powers vested in these individual branches. So the legislative branch creates law. Okay, bills turn into statutes, right? And then they can delegate this statutory authority to regulatory agencies to create, or administrative agencies to create regulations in furtherance of those laws. All right, now the executive branch is charged with carrying out or executing those laws, that is, enforcing them against the public. Okay, as part of that role, the executive branch can create administrative agencies, or the administrative agencies at least report up there through there, even though the authority comes from the legislative branch to create these agencies. But they report up to the executive branch, and they generally have regulatory authority. So they'll take the statutes created by Congress pursuant to an enabling statute that grants them the authority to do so, and create regulations to carry out or implement these statutes that Congress passes. Okay, so in this way, the president carries out the laws that Congress makes, and then the judiciary checks those laws or reviews those laws for violations of constitutionality and to make certain that they are applied correctly. So Congress cannot pass a law that's unconstitutional, and the executive cannot take action enforcing law that in some way violates an individual's constitutional rights, or can cannot enforce an unconstitutional statute. Okay, and then the judiciary, again, they simply interpret the laws and add to the law through their interpretations. That is, they form the common law.
All right, so when you are making an argument, you're going to construct an argument, one of the first things you have to do is you have to know the point that you're trying to make. And as part of making your point, you have to develop a thesis statement. A thesis statement is your claim or the point that you're trying to make, and preferably it's condensed down to a very clear and concise and accurate statement, which we call a thesis statement. A statement that when someone hears it, they know, one, that's the promise you're making to your reader, and two, they know exactly the point you're trying to make, and there's no confusion. It's very clear and articulate. Once you've developed your thesis statement, you need to identify the evidence that you're going to use to support your thesis. Having evidence to do that it's not optional, it's absolutely necessary, because again, your thesis statement is a promise that you make, and the evidence that you use is how you keep that promise to your viewer, to your reader, to your audience.
This is largely down to the improvements in one country, China. In 1990, 61% of Chinese people were living below the UN poverty line. By 2002, this had dropped to 30%. By 2015, just 4% of people in China were living in dire need. 1 billion people have been lifted out of extreme poverty worldwide, and 700 million of these people are in China. Nothing on this scale has ever been seen in human history, but until the end of 2015, that still left 55 million living in extreme poverty in China. That's like the population of a small country. So China has set herself a new target, to eradicate extreme poverty in the country altogether by 2020. These poorest communities depend on agriculture, but in some places the land is too poor to provide a decent income.
That being said, they also have a nice selection of public transport to choose from. First you have taxi cabs. Very easy and convenient and quick as long as you're not traveling in rush hour traffic. However, I find them also very expensive. In addition to the cost of traveling, there are also different rates for different times. There's also a rate for booking a taxi as well as a rate for waiting. So while I was here, I really didn't take many taxis at all. An easier and probably more affordable option to taxis would be Uber. As far as I know, Uber runs really well in Sydney and is quite convenient and easy to get from anywhere in the city. Other than taxis and Uber, there are also trains, light rails, ferries and buses. All of those use a contactless card called the Opal card, which is a pay-as-you-go card. You can get this card at the airport, at 7-Eleven, Woolworths and at a bunch of retailers and kiosks, as well as some train stations. Sydney trains are, for the most part, very reliable and very affordable. But due to the size of this city, you most likely might still have to take a bus or walk a bit from the station to your destination.